9:15, it's the morning show with Jeff and Will, AM 1700 WRCR Haverstraw, WRCR.com, and we welcome in Tina Traster, she of RCBizJournal.com, breaking news all over the place. Good morning, Tina. How are you?
That sounds dangerous, all that breaking. I can hear those loud noises. I am good. How was everybody's Easter weekend? Good?
Yep, nice and quiet. It was good.
Overall, yeah. I worked a lot, but
I got some exercise in. The weather was nice. I did the Tappan Zee Bridge bike thing. It was fun.
Oh, how is that?
I do it a lot. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It can be hectic for some people. It's not for everybody. You can walk it if you want. You don't have to bike it, but it happened to be a little bit windier than I prefer on Saturday. But I enjoy it. I love the views. I love just being able to do that. It's a good time.
Yeah, I guess it makes you think, in the wake of the Baltimore situation, it makes you think about the construction of bridges.
I'll tell you, that didn't cross my mind one iota. Not at all. Not at all.
All right. Anyway, moving on to other things. Other things that are falling. Revenues at the shops of Nanuet were clearly falling over these last many years. And now, as the town of Clarkstown, as we know, is, as we speak, continuing to battle out in Rockland's Supreme Court with the town of Clarkstown over tens of millions of dollars that the mall claims it paid in overpaid taxes. Waiting in the wings, in fact, this week, there's going to be, in parallel, another certiorari case before the same judge by, as I said, the shops at Nanuet. This is not really good news for the town of Clarkstown. These lawsuits have been pending for some time, and they go back to, this is really astounding, but they go back to 2015, so that's 8 years. Almost 9 years. These cases essentially enable, property owners who have their property who paid their property taxes to challenge the valuations that the town assessor assigned their properties in the years past. Now, the one contrast is that with the Palisades Center, the town kept raising up the assessment, whereas here the town was pretty much a level assessment. But as anybody with a pair of eyes can see, the shops at Nanuet just kept diminishing with the loss of major tenants, and also, of course, the Sears building, which they own through a different holdings, but it's still their property. So these two cases are going to be going on simultaneously. As of last Thursday, when I checked in on this, the trial was still ongoing. I know there were some dates in April that have been slated for that trial to continue, and I believe it's the day after tomorrow where this case is starting. As I said, in Rockland's Supreme Court, in front of the same judge. The shops at Nanuet litigation, as I also said, is being tied also to the Sears building, which is for tax challenges dating from 2015 to 2018, and then from 2019 to 2023. So in those cases, the allegations of overassessment just for the Sears alone were about $4 million each year for those 4 years, and then for moving forward, another $2 million per year for 5 years. So it's a lot. It's a lot of uncertainty for the town of Clarkstown, the Clarkstown Central School District. And I believe also the Nanuet School District would be impacted by the Simon, the shops at Nanuet case, Simon Law. So we are watching that. I guess the bottom line is the town made a decision about either maintaining these assessments or raising these assessments. It was no mystery that malls have been suffering and being forced to reinvent themselves. And I would say that in the case of both of our major malls here in Clarkstown, neither one has shown any kind of, swiftness in terms of reinvention. So we've seen the malls, become more depleted, lose major tenants, replace them with smaller, sort of more independent tenants. And Clarkstown just, I don't know what their thinking was, but I'm sure that in the course of these trials, they'll be able to articulate, why they thought it was a good idea to either maintain or raise these assessments when clearly these malls were becoming more and more diminished every year. And not just, by the way, excuse me, not just in the pandemic years, but long before and and continuing afterwards. So we will keep a pin in that because that is definitely something that's going to have a lot of impact.
Do you have an opinion about what either of them can do to evolve to the next level and become more than simply a mall? I mean, what do you think they can possibly do?
Yes, I definitely do. I have a lot of opinions about this. So I'm just going to throw it out there since you asked. The Palisades Center should absolutely incorporate a housing, housing.
Agreed.
It makes sense. There's a lot of open space. I'm going to talk about the need for housing in a minute, actually, as it ties to the state of the county address. There's so much vacant land there, this fallow land, and some of those old fallow department stores, JCPenney, Lord & Taylor, but I don't see why they couldn't be raised and why a housing element could not be added to the Palisades Center. I also happen to have thought, and maybe it's too late, maybe it's not too late, but I also thought that because they have so much land, it might have been a good place also to site the animal shelter. There's enough land there where it could have been isolated enough that people wouldn't have to, deal with, let's say, the sound of barking dogs. But I think that could have been a very central and ideal space for the animal shelter, as opposed to a remote, potentially flood zone where it's slated for. So I think that was a missed opportunity. And I also think that there are we've written about this, there are other public uses that malls are incorporating into their plans that go forward. Everything from public gardens to open space. I mean, how great would that be if that mall was not just a chunk of concrete? So I really think that that mall could do anything it wants because it's got so much space and it's got the roadway system, and that would be a matter of having to come to Clarkstown for a special permit for a zoning change. But anybody can see that would be beneficial to the town, the county, and the mall itself. With regard to the shops at Nanuet, well, because the shops at Nanuet is an outdoor thing, right? And that creates a different environment. I don't know if anybody here has spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, but there are so many places in Pennsylvania where they turn old brick factories, or at Maryland too, I'm thinking. They turn old brick factories into these market buildings where they're not just a food court, and also, by the way, they're not like a cheesy food court. They're really upscale artisanal food courts, or there's breweries and inside of these places, and then there's also other vendors. And I always thought that the shops at Nanuet had like the perfect physical setup to do something like that, where there would be something like a central attraction to come to the shops at Nanuet, as well as the other thing I always thought that should really be there in a really big way is an entertainment element. I'm sorry, I mean an art element. Like outdoor sculpture and other ways in which the arts are become integral to that mall, and so people think about that mall as a place for a cultural pep up. a way to not just go to the mall, but to go to the mall and be able to feel, excuse me, to feel like, culturally inspired for the day, because they have all that outdoor space again, and they could have, little tables outside and vendors even outside. It just seems like there's like a lack of creativity. Both of those malls just kind of sit and they don't evolve. And here we are. We've got two enormous tax certs, and it's going to hurt. So, do you have any ideas?
I like the housing idea for the Palisades Center. I mean, there's so many different ways that can be accomplished. I don't know about. I hadn't really thought about the idea of relocating the shelter there. It seems that's a fairly chaotic place for the animals to be. They're a little more isolated when it comes to the Haverstraw area, so I think that might be better for them. It seems like at the crossroads of 59 and the Thruway and 304 and the mall itself, which would still be in partial existence, I suppose. I think that's a fairly chaotic place for the animals to all be. I hadn't really thought much about the shops at Nanuet. I think that would be a good place for housing, though, also, if only primarily because you've got the train station just a couple blocks away. And, I mean, if anyone's going to make use of it, it might be someone who works in the city and maybe, even though there's not a lot of traffic coming through on the trains, maybe they could make it work for them, and that would be appealing to someone who can have a nice apartment, not far from where the train actually comes by.
Well, that's what the whole TOD is designated to do. That's the whole area around the mall, and Clarkstown has been, it has not been jump started.
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't happened. So, I mean, maybe if something like the mall gets involved in that, maybe that helps jumpstart it a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe, because I think we're dealing with a reluctant landowner that's holding up the project over on the COD side. So yeah, maybe that would be a good place to jumpstart it.
We got about a minute left. What else you got for us?
No, I was just going to mention that in the state of the county, I felt that the most important thing that was said was the issue about housing. And the need for affordable housing. And there's going to be another housing summit again on April 19th. This will be the second one. They had one last year. I had listened in on it. I don't think, actually, I'm sorry, that was something else I listened in on. I don't know what really manifested from that first year's summit, but there's going to be a second one this year, and we will attend and definitely bring back whatever news and whatever officials and decision makers are thinking about, because if we have got to address the affordable housing situation here in the county.
And if you want to read about that, once the event is out and about, I'm sure you'll be covering it in the pages of rcbizjournal.com. Everyone go to rcbizjournal.com. Sign up for newsletters, find out all about what's going on around the county, in the business world and elsewhere. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining us as always.
Okay, have a great week, everybody.
Have a great week. We'll talk